Good
Good
morning.
morning. It's Tuesday, and so Pam and I are here with our weekly podcast designed to help you propel your business forward one bite-sized action at a time through frank, fun, and focused discussion. This week, we're talking about how do you gain confidence to show up and get visible despite all the rules that are there, because we talk about visibility as the number one most important thing to getting business in the door. But sometimes knowing how to talk about what you do or where to start is tough. So that's what we're going to cover with our tips and experiences. Speaking of us, how about we tell you who we are? I'm Erin. I'm a copywriter and marketing strategist, and I work with adventurous action takers who are ready for the next big thing, but aren't quite sure how to get there. And so I help them with the strategy and the messaging so that they are comfortable getting visible. So that's where I'm going with things. So it's apropos that we're talking about this today, and a lot of this is what Pam does too. So let me introduce Pam.
I'm a remote work expert, and my mission is to help you reimagine work to find joy and optimize how you work remotely. I've created a community that's designed to do just that through virtual co-working and networking opportunities, and I provide individual strategy and support as much or as little as you need it. I love joining Erin each week at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, where we have these conversations live, whether they're recorded or actually streaming to you as we speak, to talk about how we can bring our different perspectives and experiences into your life to help you do more of what you love and less of the rest. And, you know, not everybody loves to be the center of attention. And even those people who are comfortable in the limelight don't always have the experience, either in writing or on camera, to feel comfortable and confident putting themselves out there. So that's what kind of posed this question that we're bringing you to today about how you gain that confidence to show up and be visible. And last week when we were talking about visibility, the idea of rules came up, and how, you know, especially when you first start out and there's all these shiny objects out there, you see people succeeding and you think, well, if I want to succeed, I need to do it just like them. I need a certain microphone. I need a certain backdrop. It should be a certain amount of minutes long. It has to have a certain cadence to the script. And that may work for you, but it may not. And so part of the
it might be overwhelming. It might be so overwhelming that even if you have the confidence, you don't ever start because you're like, oh man, I don't have the bandwidth to do that.
Absolutely. And so the key is knowing how to propel yourself forward by getting started and build that momentum by doing something that kind of looks and feels in line with what resonated with you, that you learned from whoever it is that caught your eye. And sometimes that person's model would be ideal for you. You could literally do the 3 steps that they tell you to follow. You do it, you're going to be in business, making millions and happy. Other times you're going to find that person's really successful because they're comfortable on camera, but you're actually a writer. So if you showed up doing more consistent blog posts and social media posts and writing, that your voice is going to shine through more authentically. For me, it's totally live and on camera. You will not get the same passion, excitement, personality, and vibe from me in writing. I can write well and you can get it, but consistently, I can just show up and talk about just about anything. And within a few minutes, you'll get an idea for my personality, my approach, and my perspective. Everybody has a different way of doing things. If I want to write, I'm going to hire someone, or I'm going to do a talk to text like a Otter AI app and just speak what I want to say and then edit it from there. So recognizing how you show up is going to be step number 1 in building your own confidence, because you're not trying to be someone you're not or communicate in a way that your brain just doesn't do naturally.
Yeah, and I think there's something to that too, like saying, I mean, I agree with everything that you've said. I'm not like, well, there's something to that, but I think the other side of that is start where you're comfortable, and then just practice what you're doing, because you can gain that comfort doing other things. For me, like 3 years ago, this would have been uncomfortable for me knowing that it was being recorded, but lots and lots of practice and talking to people and solving problems left and right made me realize how much I do know. And I think that's part of it, I think it's a high achiever problem. And I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back, but every time I talk to people who had similar experiences to mine, where they get stuff done, they were always like, things came easily to them, but they were always hyper aware of where they're lacking. And wanting to get more out of it. Like, my degree is in anthropology and Spanish. What business do I have talking to you about this? Oh, maybe it's the last 15, actually 17 years now of working with entrepreneurs and working very closely with them to get things done and seeing some really good practices. Whether or not my official title was copywriter and marketing strategist, I have learned those things over the years. But when I first started out, I was like, well, I've got these knowledge gaps. But here's the thing. We all have these knowledge gaps. There is no way to know everything, but you can know a lot and be able to use that to either fill the knowledge gaps or help people who maybe those knowledge gaps are semantics for them, because it's like my dad always used to give the example. He's like, well, you can tell someone the time or you can teach them how to make a clock. And I tell you what, like, every time I'd ask my dad a question, he would give me this very detailed engineer-esque explanation of like how the car worked. I just wanted to know why it looked like people's wheels turned backwards on TV. Mm-hmm. And he gave me this whole detail, and I was like, wow, that's really cool, but thanks. So I think you can, and I tend to do that too as I hear myself talking, but like you cannot have to know everything about how the car works to drive it or to tell someone how to drive it. And I think the same applies to your marketing, to your business, to everything. So what if you're just driving it to start with? That's a really good place to be.
My best friend, I've been helping her build a couple of different businesses. And she says to me, how is it that you do this? Like, how does this come so easily to you? And I'm like, just experience and doing this over and over again. But she can come to my house and organize it in an hour, and it will take me 3 months. Everyone has different strengths. And I think that what's important to realize is that whereas she might be able to organize my house, but she couldn't build me an addition if I needed a new room, it's still valuable for me to have her come organize my closets so that I know I need the addition. It's the same thing in whatever it is that you do in your business. Knowing
you can contribute so much.
Exactly.
Yes.
Knowing what you can do, focusing on the positive and the value that you provide. Because there's always somebody that's going to pick up where you're leaving off, or bring somebody to the table where they're leaving off where you pick up.
Yeah. I think there's a lot to that. And, both of us were really good at strategy, and we can both build a website if we need to. We're not like developers, but we can put together a pretty decent website. And I've done that for people, but that's not something I talk about because I don't enjoy it and it doesn't bring me joy. But I could help you. I'm getting way off track here, but there's things that we can do that maybe just because we can doesn't mean that we should. And so by figuring out what it is that you do well and what makes you happy, you'll get automatic confidence from it because you're fired up about it. And Pam talks about passion a lot. And when she gets like really excited about something, it is so much fun to watch the transformation in her face. And then she gets like really, really excited, and she keeps, just talking about it because it's passionate to her. And I think we all do that. Like, whatever it is that we're passionate about, we get really good at talking about it, and we forget to not be confident because we're excited about it. So part of what I would talk about is, what do you know? If someone came to me, they're like, gosh, I need to talk about things. I need to get visible. What do? I would say, what do you do? Like, talk to me about what you do. Talk to me about who you work with. Talk to me about how you'd solve these questions. If I came to you, why would I come to you? And then they start to be like, well, I know this, and I can do this, and here's my background, and here's why I know these things. And that's what I listen for. And then it's like, cool. That's what you talk about, because they get excited and it's fun.
It's usually the most obvious things that people don't recognize.
Oh my gosh, yes.
One of my favorite people that I've met since starting my own business is, Erin from New Zealand, our other Erin. Yeah. And she applied to a job that I had posted, and I didn't really compute or realize when we met the first time that it was like 5:00 in the morning her time. She just looked like tired and disinterested in the position. And like about 15 minutes in, she started to like wake up, like literally like wake up. And her personality came through and I really liked her and we clicked. And then at the end of the conversation, I said, I'm not hiring you for this, but I want to hire you for something. And she looked at me like, what? And I said, you don't want to do this role. This doesn't light you up. When we were talking about it, you can do it. You totally have the skills. You'd be amazing. You'd be reliable, but you would get bored and want to move on to something else because you're doing it for the money. Like what you
And
want
there's
to do.
nothing wrong with that, for the record. Like,
No, for the record, no. At the
wrong with
time,
that.
I said to her, we need to figure out what's going to light you up. So we had a bunch of other conversations and figured out some things that actually got that joyful spark in her face. And she's like, you're like the joy detector. It's like a lie detector for joy. And I was like, right, because I believe that we should all do things
Totally
that
see her saying that.
joy
too.
with work. And it was kind of one of these epiphanies for me at the same time, because I knew that I wanted her to do something she enjoyed, that she did best, and that so we could have a long-standing working relationship, so that it wouldn't be a couple months in and she moved on to something else and I had to hire someone again. But also because I selfishly wanted to work with her long term. But on the flip side, she made me realize one of the things that I do best, which is see what's real in front of me, even over camera, which is sometimes harder for my clients, so that you're finding those things that really light you up. And those are the things that are going to ignite that spark and show a confidence that you can't fake. Because when you're talking about something or doing something that you love or that you know, even if it's really basic and you don't realize how big of a deal it is, not everybody sees that or cares. So thanks, Erin, if you're watching.
It's so interesting too, is that when I first met you and Erin, you were running an accelerator together. And I was working on this book, which I still have. Still haven't done a ton with, but I've used it as like a value add for clients more than anything. And it's a bonus in my course. But it was about content. And she's like, what are you doing this for? You don't love this. You like doing copy and strategy. And I'm like, you're right, I do, but I need to get money in the door to start with. And so like, I understood that I do content for people. I don't do a ton of it for people. I do content for people that I really like. But for the most part, what I do is the strategy and the copywriting. And sometimes there's some deliverables that happen there that are content deliverables. There have to be you have to have some kind of content to create the stuff, to create your funnel. But it's interesting that you said that you did that for her, because that's exactly what she reflected back to me. She's like, this isn't where you want to be. And I think, that particular thing is a suite of the product offering that I'm building. It's an aspect of it, because it was like, basically it was the strategy behind how to create your content in a way that's effective and meaningful. And it's just, anyway, that's kind of over here, but there's so much there. And someone recently reflected back to me that I like to help people find the angle that's going to make them stand out, which is 100% true. And that's what I've always done. From like, I remember sitting in my 12th grade, it was a criminal law class for junior and seniors. And I can't even remember what it was, but the story was that someone had suffered this thing for like 12 or 13 years. I was like, how can I make it relate to people? And that is the same amount of time that everyone in this room has been in school, from the time they're in kindergarten until now. And I knew that, for example, I knew I didn't want to practice law ever, but because that's not where I excel or would find joy. But, finding that angle of what helps people set themselves apart. And sometimes, and we talked about it in the last episode, but we'll mention it again here, having someone reflect it back to you is enormous. Because if you don't have someone who can do that, you may never know, see this unique angle that you can present to people. And then when someone points it out, you're like, if you're listening to the audio of this, it's like the mind blowing thing, because you're like, oh my gosh, that is something that differentiates me. That is what makes my mechanism for doing this thing that we do so unique. That's what makes me stand out. And
but what's important also is realizing what gets in your way. What makes you feel anything less than confident, and working through those barriers. Sometimes it's a mindset issue. Sometimes it's that you haven't practiced it. Sometimes it's a person in your life that's not supportive. Because, hey, entrepreneurship it's a rocky road. And so you don't always have people who love your idea. And that's okay. Because, like, somebody had to invent it or do it first anyway and do it differently anyway at some point, right? But figuring out those blocks and those barriers and then strategically working to overcome each one, if that's something you need to do, is really important with overcoming mindset issues. And then secondly, making sure that you are just taking that next bite-sized step. We talk about bite-size all the time here. And it's figuring out, what can you do today, right now in this moment, to boost your confidence? Is it literally like, I have a friend who loves to get her hair done, like straightened, and does some other just like cosmetic things that she's not super vain, but it's just like getting her eyebrows waxed, wearing certain makeup. She needs to show up a certain way to feel confident. Otherwise, she just doesn't feel good about herself. And it's not that she feels like unattractive, but this is like how she feels most comfortable. It might be a certain way that you dress. It might be the lighting in the room. You need to come up with those little things that, as you tweak them, make you feel more comfortable so that you're not distracted by them, whatever they are. And then they all contribute to building that confidence as you practice. For me, one of the things that I find that's really important when I want to be confident, I am pretty confident. When I want to project the confidence that I feel, is making sure that I go into a conversation just well rested and feeling like I'm clear thinking. It doesn't always happen, but if I'm tired, you'll often have me tell you, you'll hear me say, guess what, I'm just a little tired today, because I know that I may not be as sharp or I might miss a detail. And I, like Erin has mentioned a couple times, feel like I'm one of those people that knows a lot and knows the gaps of what I don't know. So I'm happy to tell you when a gap exists, but I know that when I'm more tired, it might shine through and I may not catch it to recognize it. And no one else cares but me. Like, everybody knows that nobody knows everything.
Well, I think, it's interesting that you're talking about some of these things as what you do to project that confidence and to really just feel good about where you are right then and there. For me, it's having a little bit of makeup on, but also, like, one of my first jobs out of college was a tour director on a motor coach. And anyone will tell you that there's a difference between a motor coach and a bus, anyone in the travel industry. So be sure to look that up sometime. But it's very true. It's just anyway, moving forward. So I was a person who sat at the front of the bus with a microphone and I talked, and it was like I was on the whole time, and I was on, but it's almost like every day when I got on that coach or when I was greeting people at breakfast or whenever that was, it was like I slipped on this persona. It's still me, but it's just a very different version of me than you might get if we're friends hanging out over a glass of wine. It's whatever that thing is. And I can't explain it other than it's like a costume that you put on.
It's an energy. It's an energy too.
It's an energy. Yeah. And so it doesn't mean it's not me. It doesn't mean it's not authentic. But I find that I need to put that on sometimes when I'm getting ready to speak, because I still talk with a lot of likes and ums because I just am me.
Right.
But on the other hand, I just am able to enunciate better and speak more clearly. And I can't even explain what that is, but I do it every time I'm getting on camera.
It's a mindset.
It's a mindset. It's a breath. It's I don't know. I don't know exactly what it is.
It's knowing that you're showing up in the way that you want to be received. So
when
I
say this, almost, and it's so much fun to try to describe because I find I can't.
Right. It's exactly what I was saying. Like, when I'll say I'm tired, I feel most confident and happy with how I show up when you see me light up the way you described earlier, because that is me and my best. Me and my best is when I'm passionate, excited, right? And I always want to be my best, but we're human. So when I'm tired, even if I have all that passion, sometimes it's just a little bit more muted because maybe I didn't sleep well the night before, whatever it is. And so I feel like I'm almost not delivering what you're expecting or what I want you to see, not because I'm not being real, but because I always want to give my best. And it's the same idea when you are giving a tour. I used to give tours in college. You want people to see you wear a certain outfit, you do your hair, you present yourself a certain way because you want to look your best. You want to make a good first, second, third, whatever impression. But everyone has moments and days. So my point of bringing this up today is that you should know those things that trigger you so that when you can control them, you do, because it helps set you up for success. But even when they don't happen, don't retract. I challenge you to move forward. On those days where you can't put on that lipstick, Erin, and show up because you ran out, show up. You're still you. You still have the same knowledge. And on those days where maybe I am not as rested as I was the night before, and I might not be as articulate or as, beaming with joy, it doesn't mean that I'm not as smart or excited. It just means that maybe I look a little paler on camera, but it doesn't, these things shouldn't take away from you feeling really good about who you are, what you know, and what you can offer. And it actually makes you more real. And I'll leave you with this thought. When I was kind of just starting out and I was working with some of my first clients, I would say to them, and I'm sure I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again. Why do you like working with me? And they would give me reasons. And I would say, but does it bother you that sometimes I'm wearing a tank top or a t-shirt, or like I'm sitting, with a hat on outside because it's sunny and I was like living in Florida for one of these conversations that I can explicitly remember when I first moved there from Rio. And they said, that's what makes you real, Pam. Like, we love that your kids might run in the background, or that you're not wearing a business suit, because we don't want to wear a business suit anymore. We see what we want in you, and that you're just a real person building a business, doing what you enjoy. And that's what we're trying to do. And it was a group call. So that's why I say we, because a couple of people were echoing off each other. But knowing that you are who you are and showing up can also build confidence. So like Erin said, let people reflect back to you what it is about you that's most attractive to them, because it will help you feel more confident, even in those areas that I actually felt quite what's the word?
Yes, it's the opposite of
self-conscious. I felt like, oh my gosh, in all my previous jobs, like I had a boss when I was 8 months pregnant and sweating because the building air conditioning wasn't working in the middle of summer, was upset that I removed a jacket from a suit, even though I had a beautiful top underneath, because you were supposed to wear a suit. And I said, I'm 8 months pregnant. The air conditioning's not working. It's literally 105 degrees in this building. I'm going to pass out. That's how much your appearance mattered in my former world. And it's not that I didn't look good in my current world, but I looked less the way I was once told I had to look to be taken seriously.
Well, and I think so. Yeah, and I have only sort of lived in that world because I always worked for very small businesses, and there were some that were more formal than others. But for the most part, I think there's also something like when you're talking about showing up, and especially when it's virtual, is it's okay to acknowledge the elephant in the room, and then you can move on. For me, it's a lot of times literally the kids that you mentioned running through the background. Most people, if they're watching this, have met me at some point, have also met Miss 3, who often streams through the background wearing nothing but a diaper, and is like chaotic and loud. And that's just part of the realities. And so I manage that the very first conversation I have with people by saying, hey, you're probably going to meet my kid at some point while we're working together. It's just my life, and she's fantastic and fabulous. Sometimes she's really fun, and sometimes it's like, she's fun, I swear. But I think by acknowledging that, you take away its power to derail you. Whether the elephant in your room is your daughter, whether it's your energy level, and you acknowledge it, and then you move on. And don't bring it up again. Don't apologize for it. It's like, hey, and I think that's the other thing. Instead of apologizing, and I think we're all working on this, is take a moment to acknowledge and then think, hey, thanks for putting up with, the chaos here today. And if you're not apologizing, then people, it's just a feel-good thing. And it's such a subtle thing. But by saying thank you, you are creating this feeling of goodwill. Whereas if you're apologizing, it automatically is like, sets the stage for, oh no, you don't have to. And then it goes back and forth. And otherwise people are like, hey, no problem. Great to see you. Great to meet Miss 3.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And it's a great segue to what we're going to talk about next week. So I'm going to take us there, because I'm kind of
We're out
excited
of
about this
time.
topic,
Yeah.
and we're running out of time, which is how to know when to take a short break. And don't apologize for it. Everybody needs it, whether you're taking a vacation
Yes.
because you are going somewhere to enjoy yourself, or you're doing a staycation, or by the time you watch that episode, like me, you will be somewhere around having a new baby and needing some time.
Or you will have gone on a 2-week road trip with your entire family in an RV, and you're hoping that all come out of it the same.
That's right. It's how do you know when to take a short break? Because in our businesses, we push forward all the time because we're excited, we're energized. At least Erin and I do, and a lot of the people we work with do. But we all need reminders that it's okay sometimes to either slow down or even pause. And sometimes it works to your benefit. Like sometimes stepping back, whether it's for a few hours in one particular day or a longer break, can really serve you well. So we're going to dive deep into that topic next week. And we're going to put a poll out there to kind of get some of your thoughts in advance, like we always do on social. So we want to hear from you. But in the meantime, if there's something we can do to help you gain more confidence so that you can be more visible, please reach out. You can email us at hi@thezonecommunity.com or find us on social. We offer laser strategy sessions that are one-on-one with either one of us or one-on-two, where you get both of our great minds to help you. And we even do some VIP days where you get a solid chunk of our life in a full day where we are fully focused on you. And we can do confidence training and strategy to help you overcome any of the obstacles that may be in your way and really boost your visibility in a way that feels good. So
and whether that looks like one-on-one 2 days in a row with a different one of us, or whether it's some combination thereof combined, we can do a lot to help you figure out where you shine and then start talking about it.
Absolutely. And we're excited to do it. So thank you for listening today. Make sure you tune in next week at 10:30 a.m. Eastern on Tuesday, because we are always putting out something new. And we look forward to continuing all of these conversations with you in the coming days and weeks ahead.
Yes. All right. Have a wonderful day.